Welcome to the Soul Success Summit, where we share guidance on how to succeed on the goal line and the soul line. My name is Katja Rusanen, and I'm your host. I love helping coaches and healers shine their light, share their gifts, and succeed on purpose. So today I want to talk about your story. And before we get started, let me ask you, would you like to be able to make a meaningful impact in the world? And I assume your answer is yes, as you are here. And would you like to use your story to inspire and attract high quality clients who are ready to do the work that you can help them do to get the results of the transformation they are searching for? You're absolutely in the right place. I have a lot in store for you. And let me ask you also, have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be able to share your story with ease? Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to share your story in a way that inspires and makes a meaningful impact? And have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be able to get your story out and transform hundreds of lives? Before we talk about how to overcome your blocks and resistance to share your story, I just want to spend a few moments talking about your story and why it's so important. I believe that your story can be the very thing that helps someone. It can be a spark of hope, a spark of inspiration, a spark of light that can start their own personal transformation. When it comes to your business, your story helps you to stand out from other people who do similar work than you do. It can create heart-to-heart connections and to attract your ideal clients as they resonate with your story and want to work with you. And your story can be a true client magnet. And somebody who has a great story and the willingness to share it can truly make a meaningful impact in the world. Your story truly matters. But why do so many coaches and healers struggle with sharing their story? They feel that the words get stuck in their throat when they are about to share their story. They spend hours and hours trying to figure out how to stand out from the crowd, but keep hiding their unique story. And they feel it's too scary, too raw, too vulnerable. And yet they feel so frustrated as they are not making the impact that they desire. So today you will discover 3 common blocks coaches and healers have sharing their story and how to overcome them. In a moment, you will discover the 3 common blocks to sharing your story and how to overcome them. And in a moment, you also discover the number 1 most powerful thing you need to effectively use your story so that it can inspire and attract your ideal clients with ease. And, I'm not going to be able to cover absolutely everything within this time, but I'm going to do my absolute best to give you everything that I can within the time available so that I can help you to overcome the challenges so that you can share your story with greater ease. And at the end, I promise to tell you how you can get some additional help on this. So let's get started here. And just curious to know, have you recently watched a TV show, a Netflix special, a movie, listened to a song, or watched news in the last 24 hours? Everybody is engaging stories all the time. Every single one of those things is a story, even the news. And we've moved on from days when the TV reporters and the news anchors only shared the facts. Now there is also a story as it brings deeper meaning and perspective. This is because humans love stories. In fact, visual storytelling is one of the oldest forms of communication, and the oral tradition of storytelling has dated back to various times in history. It was used as a way to pass the wisdom from one generation to the next. And then we began to be able to document our history in written stories. And now we use stories to entertain, educate, inspire, and so on. And it is said that stories are remembered 22 times more than facts alone. Stories are easy to remember. And one of my childhood memories is that my dad used to read me bedtime stories. And sometimes he, though, was so tired that instead of reading, he started making up stories. But I wasn't too happy about his creativity. And I went to complain to my mom that the dad was not reading my book correctly, and asked her to read it as it was written, because I wanted to hear it the same way. And I wasn't even able to read, but I remembered the story. Because stories are easy to remember. And our brains are trained to listen to stories from early age. And therefore, they are an effective way to connect, build trust, and credibility. Based on the title of our session today, I'm going to assume that for most of you, you would answer yes to this question, but let me ask it anyway. Have you ever hesitated sharing parts of your story? I get the sense that the answer is yes. Maybe you were scared. Maybe you thought that you were going to be judged. Maybe it felt too vulnerable, too raw. Maybe you thought it was too dark. That's what I thought. I have always loved hearing stories, but I resisted telling mine for 15 years. And I soon share with you why. I felt that my story was deep, dark secret that I carried around and needed to hide. Because something happened to me and changed my life at the age of 16. I was living in a small village in Finland. I still remember that spring. I felt butterflies in my belly and I fell in love for the first time. Do you still remember your first love? It was truly a sweet 16. As all of the sudden the sun was shining bright and the birds were singing their sweet melodies, and I felt bubbling happiness when we were together. But unfortunately, my first love story did not end with the happily ever after. It ended when I heard the news that my boyfriend had died by suicide. The pain that I felt was overwhelming. And the question why was like an open wound that would not stop bleeding. I felt that I should have saved him. I should have known. It was all my fault. If I had been more attentive, more attractive, more everything, he would have stayed. I simply wasn't enough. I felt like tomorrow had lost all its meaning. And I was very near to take my own life. But luckily, there was an opening of spark of light to enter into my dark mind at the 11th hour. And I chose life. That choice started my healing journey through the grief, trauma, and darkness. I discovered spiritual teachings that helped me on the way. They brought me answers that I could not otherwise find. And 15 years later, I went to a palm reader who asked me, amongst other things, why don't you write? And that question stirred something inside of me. It felt like he just knew that I had a story to tell. That night, I started to write my first novel, even though it felt like opening Pandora's box. Through the healing power of writing, I started to see the lessons that I had learned throughout this journey. The shift occurred when I truly got the message that life didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And that was when I started to change the story that I was telling myself about what had happened and its meaning. And I felt called to talk about my life experiences so that I could help others. Once I started to see the lessons that I learned throughout my journey, and there was this spark to share them, so I could help somebody else who might be going through darkness in their lives. I wanted to bring a spark of light, a spark of hope, that there was a way through even the most challenging day. And when I found the courage to start sharing my story, I started with one person. And I noticed the heart-to-heart connection that was coming forward as I opened up. I was just amazed. And that gave me courage to share in a small group, then in a bigger group. And then finally, I was ready to share my story openly. And I was surprised how people opened up to share their stories too. And then they were asking me for support and guidance. And I want you to know that you can share your story too. It matters. And guess what? Since opening the floodgate, I have published 3 novels, contributed to 3 best-selling books, written several articles for the Huffington Post and Thrive Global, and appeared as a guest in various podcasts. And English isn't even my native language, as you can hear. And my stories have inspired my ideal clients to connect and work with me. And I have served hundreds of healers and coaches, and I have been handpicked to do healing calls in an $80,000 mastermind. And I'm using my natural ability to see the blocks and help them break through their blocks and fears so that they can share their story and that they can share their work and make a meaningful impact. And maybe I can call this as one of my superpowers. So I want this for you. I want you to be able to feel free to share your stories and share your work. You've got so many amazing ideas during this Soul Success Summit. And I just want to inspire you to build that credibility, trust, and connection with your ideal clients through the power of your story. And I want to say that I know that my story is an extreme story. Not everybody has had this kind of literal life and death experiences. And thanks God for that. The good news is that you don't have to. You have not needed to go through trauma to have a share-worthy story. I believe everyone has a story that can make a meaningful impact. And there are ways to overcome blocks and resistance to share it. Now, let's dive into the content. And by the end of this training, you are aware of 3 common blocks coaches and healers have sharing their story. And I promise you that you also know the keys to overcome them. So we start with the number 3 blocks, that is unclarity. These common blocks might play in your life in 2 different ways. It might make you feel overwhelmed with so many ideas in your head, and you're consistently second-guessing yourself with story to tell. Or you might be desperately seeking something to share. You might be looking for the story and struggling to know where to start. So we want to find the sweet spot. If you feel that you have too many ideas, you need to narrow it down so you can tell one powerful story at a time. And if you think that you don't have anything to share, then it is really to trust that you do have one and dig even deeper. And either way, it's about getting super clear. You may need to clear away a bunch of clutter or dig even deeper to find it. And I believe that we all have a story that can create a positive impact. And the solution here is to start with the end in mind. It's easier to get there when you know where you are going, know the impact that you want to create. And then you can start asking, why do you want to do what you do? Why do you want to share this particular work? What put you on this path? Like here in the Soul Success Summit, I always ask about the speakers, how did they get started? And they all had a story that they shared. And I also shared my core event at the beginning of this session. And when I discovered the lessons I had learned, I felt called to talk about my life experiences so that I could help others. And I realized that when we share our unique life experiences and the lessons we learned, we are serving others. And once you know why you want to share, it's easier to discover the story and the willingness to share it. Then there is one thing that you must have. You must have clear structure. And this is the number one most powerful thing you need to effectively share your story. So pay attention here. You know, I can't teach you all of this with the time I have here today. I have an entire program where I help people work through this process. But here are a couple of the main points. Every story needs a strong beginning, middle, and end. Structure organizes your story in a way so that it's more easily understood. It also ensures that you make your points effectively and take your audience on a journey with you. And a good story has its elements of highs and lows, successes and failures. It's kind of like a walking over a bridge. You set the scene at the beginning, then something happens and the situation escalates until it reaches its peak in the middle of the bridge. And then shift happens and you start discovering a solution as you walk across the bridge to the other side, where you can share your takeaways from the journey as well as your calls to action. This structure will bring you clarity to your story and you will feel more confident to share it. The second common block is that it feels too vulnerable. You might hesitate to share a story about yourself because it feels too painful, because you remember the hurtful details and you distance yourself and don't want to remember some of the challenging moments. I get it. I did that 15 years, but it didn't work. The unresolved emotions kept bouncing back like beach balls. And for me, this is an indication that there is still some unresolved emotions. At least that was my gaze. The way to overcome this is to process your emotions. Find a way to express your emotions. You might write about them. You might talk about them with others in a safe environment so that you can get more perspective. The memories of your challenging life experiences can become less painful when you work through the emotions and see your life from soul's perspective. It's possible to come to better terms with your past. You can heal, and your story can become a source of strength rather than pain. You free yourself from the prison of your past. And you really want to hear this hidden block that can keep you avoiding sharing your story and your work in the world. We might shy away from sharing as the openness to share our flaws and our struggles require courage. We want to appear perfect, but this is the very thing that can attract our ideal clients as they realize that you've been there too and you figured a way forward. And let me share this beautiful quote from Maya Angelou to highlight this. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. That's the power of emotions. And here is the number one block, that is fear and insecurity. And fear and insecurity can make you want to hide. The words can get stuck in your throat and you might let the opportunities to share about your work slip away. It can vary from total panic to more subtle feelings of insecurity. And just explore within. Have you ever experienced fear or insecurity about sharing your story? It is very human to feel fear. So how can we overcome it? I believe that the awareness of the inner stories is the key. What is the story that you are telling yourself that is making you feel the fear and insecurity? So before you share your story, you may need to work on your inner story so that you can gain the freedom to share your life experiences with others and your work as well. So when you are aware of the inner story that evokes fear, it's so much easier to find ways to overcome it and transform it instead of pushing it away. Get curious. Also, knowing your why is a super powerful way to get started. Why is it important for you to overcome your fears and insecurities? But to be honest with you, breaking through a fear can be a very challenging thing to do on your own. And there is a reason for this. You were probably told as a child not to touch the hot stove because it would burn you. Hopefully you listened. But you may have come across a hot stove by accident. What did you do when this happened? You touched it and you immediately removed your hand and avoided touching it again, right? During this process, amygdala in our brains becomes activated and it creates a memory that is specifically tied to heightened negative emotional state. This is called fear conditioning. And this happens when a person is under severe emotional situation and it's stored differently. That is why you are more easily able to recall the 1 or 2 times that specific situation caused you distress, but may overlook hundreds of times that the same type of situation was uneventful. This protects you from having similar negative experiences again. And let me go back to the stove example. You will not touch the hot stove in the future if it's at all within your control. The amygdala has activated and effectively stored the memory of the hot stove to keep you safe. And this is also the reason why it's challenging to break through fear on your own. We don't want to go there. We want to avoid it. We want to be safe. Unfortunately, our bodies can overreact to a stressful situation that aren't life-threatening, like sharing our story. We start telling ourselves stories that what could happen if we would do something, and that just increases the fear. We might imagine the worst case scenarios. And you may realize that you are overreacting or behaving in a way that is counter to what you know to be true. But this knowledge alone isn't enough for lasting behavior change. If you find that you are dealing with fear, consider getting support to challenge and rewrite your story, the inner story. And whether you're working with me or somebody else, the stories we tell ourselves can empower us or disempower us. And rewriting emotionally impactful events from our past, from a place of non-judgment and awareness, can lead to new insights, increased happiness, inner peace, and personal growth, as well as business growth. You don't have to be a prisoner of your past. Use what you have learned today and continue working with me or someone else so that you can move past the paralysis of fear conditioning and get back to living fully now, so that you can shine your light, share your gifts, and succeed on purpose. And now I have a question for you. On a scale 0 to 10, how ready do you feel to share your story? 10 being, I'm ready to stand up and tell my story right now. And 0 is being, I'm never going to share my story to anyone. Never, ever. Again, awareness is the key here. So if you are in the 8 to 10 range, you got confidence and know what story to share. If you are in the 4 to 7 range, it sounds like you have some willingness to share your story. And given the right set of circumstances, you'll do it. But there may be also some resistance. You may have fear and you may stumble through, but it's easy to fall back into the avoidance here. And then if you are under 4, you know that this is a critical area as the fear is holding you back. And it is critical to get the support so that you can feel free to share your story. Now, I'd love to invite you for a moment to use your imagination. If you're in a safe place, you can even close your eyelids. And let's start with taking a couple of deep breaths in and out. And if you were under 4, imagine what it would feel like to be a 6. Just for a moment. Imagine how would it feel to embrace your story and discover the willingness to share your story. If you were in the 4 to 7 range, just for a moment, imagine what it would feel like to be 8. How would it feel to gain freedom to share your story with ease? And if you were in the 8 to 10 range, just for a moment, imagine how it would feel to be 10. Picture yourself sharing your story in front of your ideal audience, whether it's virtual or in person. And imagine that all the worries and concerns are gone. Imagine hearing them to applaud and seeing the hope in their eyes. Just imagine the impact that you could make, the ripple effect of light. And I want you to know that your story really matters. And now you can gently come back to this moment and open your eyes. Just notice how you feel right now. What are you thinking right now? And just notice if there are any new ideas of the actions that you can do right now. And as we are coming towards the end of our training today, I just want to share this truth with you. Your story can be the very thing that helps someone. And I hope that you will go out there and share your story. And if needed, work on these inner stories so that you can move forward. And now I just want to close this with the words of wisdom that hopefully come through me. So give me a moment here. I just want to share that your purpose was given to you for a reason. You came to this Soul Success Summit as you want to accelerate your growth on the goal line and the soul line. And it is, again, an opportunity for you. And I believe everything starts within. So as we work through our limitations, those inner stories that might have held us back, we are opening up to the freedom and the possibilities that is available for us. And just know that your past does not need to equal your future. It is possible to transform your inner stories. And then you can share your story to inspire others. You can share your gifts as you claim that freedom to be you and do the work that you do. So that was my words of wisdom to you. And I just want to thank you for being here today, taking time to tune in to Soul Success Summit. And now it's time for you to go out there and take action. So implement these things that you learned here. And I'm sending you loads of light, loads of love. Stay well.